We all know the classic campfire stories designed to scare teenagers. These tales often center on shadowy figures lurking in the woods or cursed attractions at a traveling carnival. In December 1976, a television crew was filming an episode of The $6 Million Man inside a haunted funhouse at a California amusement park. While adjusting the set, a crew member accidentally snapped the arm off a neon-painted prop hanging from the ceiling. Sticking out from the broken plaster was human bone. Medical examiners confirmed that this prop, which thousands of people had poked and photographed for years, was an actual mummified human corpse. The preserved body actually belonged to Elmer McCurdy, an unsuccessful train robber who died in a 1911 shootout with Oklahoma police. When nobody claimed his body, an enterprising funeral director embalmed him with arsenic and put him on display, eventually selling him to traveling carnivals. McCurdy spent 65 years traveling across the country as a spooky attraction before he was finally discovered. His strange journey from outlaw to prop shows how easily a documented historical event can blur into a local myth. Curious? In Beaver County, Pennsylvania, locals pass down stories of the Green Man, sometimes called Charlie No-Face. The legend detailed a faceless monster with glowing green skin who stalked empty rural roads after dark to hunt survivors. The man walking those roads was Raymond Robinson. In 1919, when Raymond was 8 years old, he touched a power line carrying 22,000 volts of electricity. He survived, but the electrical surge left him permanently disfigured, taking his eyes, nose, and right arm. Because he could not work a traditional job, Raymond spent his days crafting leather goods at home. He took solitary walks along Route 351 only at night because he knew his appearance might frighten his neighbors during the day. The teenagers who braved the dark found a man far removed from the legend. Multiple independent accounts confirm that if you stopped to talk to Raymond, he was friendly, intelligent, and happy to chat over a cigarette or a beer. Stories about a glowing boogeyman were a way to navigate the discomfort of a neighbor living with profound trauma and isolation. Another prominent myth from the 1990s describes a woman arriving at a California hospital with a bizarre curse. The stories claim her skin had an oily sheen, and her blood was so toxic that it knocked out the medical staff and melted the floor tiles. The actual patient was Gloria Ramirez. She arrived at Riverside General Hospital in 1994 with heart problems related to advanced cancer. When a nurse performed a routine blood draw, an ammonia-like odor filled the room, and 23 hospital workers began suffering from muscle spasms, breathing issues, and nausea. This diagram illustrates the leading scientific explanation. To manage her cancer pain, scientists believe Ramirez used a home remedy called dimethyl sulfoxide, or DMSO, which had pooled in her system. When paramedics administered oxygen, it interacted with the accumulated chemicals in her failing organs. The oxygen converted the baseline DMSO into a toxic vapor called DMSO4, which immediately dispersed into the enclosed air of the emergency room. The hospital really did evacuate the entire emergency department. A hazmat team was brought in to decontaminate the facility before anyone could safely return. Scientific details like molecular synthesis and organ failure are difficult to grasp in an emergency. When an event is deadly and defies immediate explanation, the public instinct is to fill the gaps with supernatural malice. In the woods of Staten Island, kids grow up terrified of Cropsey. He was depicted as a hook-handed mental patient who prowled the shadows around an abandoned asylum, snatching children who strayed too far from home. Cropsey was actually a man named Andre Rand. Rand was an orderly at the Willowbrook Mental Institution during a period of widespread neglect. Even after the facility shut down, Rand stayed on the grounds to kidnap young, vulnerable girls. This mirrors another pervasive story: guests discovering a corpse hidden inside a hotel mattress. In 1999, guests at the Ocean View Motel in Atlantic City complained of a sickening odor for days. Housekeeping eventually opened up the box spring in room 112 and found the decomposing body of Saul Hernandez. Other documented cases involve people secretly living inside the wall voids of a family home. In 1986, police discovered that Daniel LaPlante had been crawling through the walls of a Massachusetts home for months, watching the residents through tiny holes while they slept. Grave. These predators operate through human criminality and violence rather than supernatural powers. Why do we embellish these events with glowing eyes, melting floors, and bloody hooks when the police reports and medical records are already sitting in the archives? These exaggerated details act as a protective barrier. A fictional boogeyman is easier to process than a senseless electrical accident, a complex biological failure, or the quiet depravity of a man hiding inside a wall. The next time you hear a bizarre local legend, take a moment to look into the regional history that birthed it. The supernatural elements provide a layer of fiction over a documented reality that is often far darker than the myth itself.